now. There we go. You want me to do this? You want to start this?
Go ahead.
All right. Miguel Rodriguez here for the Bakersfield Gentlemen on this great Monday. This take 2 of a very special show that we've been dying to get on. You know this gentleman. He's been on before, and he's going to be on again and again and again every chance we get.
Right.
And thanks to his patience for last time. That was Frankie's mess up 100%, nobody else's. I will say that with 100% clarity. But this is a very special one for us for, I would say, 3 reasons. Not just because he's him, but I would say because of the cigar we're talking about.
Correct.
The after PCA we can talk about.
Yes.
And the fact that if you don't know about this cigar, I would be unbelievably humbled to be the first one to talk about it with you.
Now,
but
people should know.
You already know.
This was our number 1 cigar of 2023.
Yeah.
From Sinistro. And, Sinistro has been in the top 5, I think, every year. We've done a list in some form or another, one of their cigars. Number 2 quite a few times. And this is the first time they made the number 1 with this fantastic cigar that we're going to smoke today. And again, I'll be honest, if you guys watch a lot of our PCA recap from last year or us talking about the top 20 or top 25 list from last year, you knew the cigar was going to be up there because, it was fantastic from the first time we smoked it. And I'm talking about we smoked this at PCA without letting it acclimate to anything, and it was still amazing.
Phenomenal. I could not agree with that anymore. Without further ado, while Frankie gets to light his, I will light mine after. It is time to bring on James. Give me that thumbs up, brother. Let me know you're good to go. Boom. There we go. Come on, camera. There we go.
And I'm always good to go, bro.
That is true. I have not known you to not be.
Yeah, I'm always ready, bro. I'm always ready.
And look at that, Eduardo. I saw Sinistro, James, so I stopped and wanted to jump on. I knew you would, brother. I knew it.
What's up, Eduardo?
He's probably one of the smarter men I know on this planet. He's a scholar and a gentleman. It's a very rare combination these days, but he knows what's good.
I agree.
Frankie's gonna get a little bit of sharing in right there. So I'm gonna start this off nice and easy. I have a feeling that we are smoking the same thing today, brother.
I have a pretty good feeling that we are too.
So this
I'll be, but I'm doing the Perfecto. Are you got the Perfecto in your hand, or you got the Toro?
I'm going Toro for today, just because we're gonna put that. We have 2 Perfectos, so that's gonna go in review form.
Okay, well, I gotta get you some more then. My bad.
I'm not gonna complain about that. Don't worry.
Now, I will say real quick caveat. If you guys hear a little extra noise in the background, we are at the club, and it is the finals for the final for March Madness. So they're watching the game right now. So if you guys hear a little extra noise, please bear with us.
I haven't heard anything, so we're good to go.
Good.
And sometimes it's better than hearing me, you know?
What are you talking about?
So, James, before we brought you on, we were talking about how Sinistro has been in the top 5 for our list since, we started this list. This is your first number 1. How does that feel?
It feels great, dude. I've been always trying to hammer out as best as I can the blends that I could do, you know. But I'm actually excited to be number 1. I'm happy to be number 1. I showed you guys. I put like your sponsored stuff. I showed Miguel. I don't know if he showed you, but you know, I like, you know, I'm always competitive, you know, so I always want to be number 1. So it feels good. Definitely feels good.
I got to make a caveat though, guys. I'm sorry to correct you, Frankie, but this is not his first number 1 for us. When we did the split list, I put the Last Cowboy Maduro as my number 1. That was 17, I think.
18.
But
18.
But like I've always said, you know, Miguel's the brother with all the talent and the taste. You know what I mean? Like he knows what's up. Like Frankie, you know, he's getting there. He's getting there, moving up slowly. But you know, Miguel was smart enough to give me number 1 in 2018. So, oh man, it's cool, dude. Next split list, I better be on your number 1, Frankie.
Of course.
That's fair.
So let's get into the cigar. To me, the Desperado is different than stuff you've done before. Because to me, it's not as strong. It's got that sweetness to it. What was going into the idea, the thought process of blending this cigar? Because again, to me, this is completely different from anything you've ever done.
So I've been kind of like when I've been even some of the stuff I'm working on now, which I don't even know what's going to happen with this stuff. Um, I don't know when it's going to come out, but I have a whole bunch of samples here that I just did runs of stuff for me for stuff that might come out this year. Um, I'm trying to be a little bit more different with my blending. The desk, and this is something that started happening when I made the Desperado, and I don't want to be so one dimensional when I blend. Not that I feel like I was ever, but I always want to keep being able to blend cigars that are totally different, so kind of like what I've been working on now is, in the 90s and the early 2000s, there was kind of like, there wasn't that many Maduros out. There was very more, um, it was a lot of like stuff that tasted similar to each other because like all the Dominicans, there wasn't that many predominant, Nicaraguan brands, and all the Dominican brands were using, Olor and all the same stuff. So in the 90s, like you would have this kind of, same nuance throughout all the cigars. So the new blends I've been working on now is kind of bringing back that profile and actually adding like a twist to it, adding some spice, adding some. So like what I've been trying to do now is kind of get out of my, not that I feel like I was ever in a box, but I'm trying to do stuff that I usually wouldn't do or be different with. The Desperado was actually, I had just tried it for the first time, the pure grade, and I was very excited about working with it. I was told I was not going to be able to work with it, and then I kicked and screamed, and I annoyed the hell out of my factory until they told me I couldn't work with it. So I got a what's up, Gabriel? So I got the green light, and even before I got the green light, I was already making the blend in my head before we even got to the factory. So we were in the a freezer where they source all the higher end wrappers and stuff, so they don't, they freeze them. So we were there, and then on the drive from there to the factory, I was already working out the blend in my head while I was kicking and screaming and yelling at the factory to let me use the Connecticut broadleaf. So I quickly got to the factory. I jotted down my idea in my head on paper real quick to look at it, and then I was nervous because I've never worked with this rapper before, so I was like, well, not to waste time, let me make a second blend, and then we'll figure it out, because who knows if the first blend is gonna be the one I go with, obviously. So I wanted to do something secondary. So if the first one was a total failure, I had a second option to tweak. If the second one wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be, at least I had a second option, to tweak. So we rolled them, and then we started smoking them in the factory with the master blender, Ram, and a couple other people. And Ram looked at me. He's like, "Why'd you do a second blend?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know, you're right." And the second blend wasn't anywhere as good, and it was a one and done. And I got lucky on that blend. Obviously, it doesn't always work out like that, but that's kind of what I'm trying to do now. Is try to be a little bit more different and a little bit more edgy. One of my customers actually pulled me to the side and was like, "Hey, man, you haven't been doing all that much the last couple of years, not couple of years, in the last year." And he's like, is there going to be something different with this? Is there something to be different with that? And then I was like, no, no, no. And then on the third no, I was like, I need to get my ass back in gear. Sorry, I don't know, my bad if I cuss, but I was like, I got to get my butt back in gear. Yeah, okay. Well, I was like, I got to get my ass back in gear and, keep trying different things and doing different things. But you guys will see, obviously, with stuff that drops in the near future. We're looking at some stuff dropping in July, kind of same PCA time. So the old PCA time, my bad.
Oh, yeah. Because I'm wondering if that, like you just said right now, you guys have something for July. Is that going to be a lot of companies? Obviously, you guys think in years terms, not just next year, but years out. Is that mean there's going to be other projects that we'll see in July? I'm assuming yes.
I would assume yes. I think some people, like I've heard some people are dropping stuff a little bit sooner than they usually would. And even in July, some people would drop in. By the time it does ship, it'll be August, September, or October. You know what I mean? But I heard some companies that
Yeah.
usually drop in July are dropping a couple of months earlier this year. Maybe because they want to do, like, it's opened up the door. Because your drop now, like our perfectos were in February, right? So I'm sorry, in March,
Yeah.
when PCA was. So like now I have the whole year to play with and do other stuff with. Usually people don't drop anything early in the year because January is not that great a month in sales. It's the worst month, um, usually, numbers wise. So now that you have to do something in March, not have to, but if you want to, make a little bit of noise at PCA so people, get a little bit more foot traffic in your booth, you're going to have to do something early in the year. So, now it opens up people. I don't know if the people that are going to do it in 2 months will do something in the middle of the year and then another one at the end of the year or whatnot. But it's just a lot of companies that usually wouldn't do drops this early are doing a few drops early. So yeah, I think it's going to be a weird year for drops, obviously, and it's going to be kind of more open, I think, and more people are going to be able to do what they kind of want to do. It's actually, as much as I hate to say it, it's actually a little bit better. Um, because it opens you up as a manufacturer to to have the whole year to play with now. You know what I mean? You don't have to be focused on doing something
Sure.
just in July, right? And then your focus could be at the
Yeah.
end of the year when business is already slowing down because of winter, and then obviously you have your rush before December. You know what I mean? And then you have your, you know what I mean? So you have a little bit more time to play and do stuff. The customers are getting their products right before summer. I mean, it helps most territories other than, Arizona, because, summer's dead in Arizona. So, most other territories, it's good for them to get their product, you know, right before summer. So they have it through summer sales and they do well with it. You know what I mean? It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's kind of like if you're a retailer, if you get your product in November, it's kind of like, hey, great, I'm going to have 1 month of great sales in December, but then January is going to suck. So I'm putting in all this money, in November, and I have all this stuff coming in, or October or September, you know what I mean? And it's not your best months of sales. So I think it's better. I don't know. I think it's better on the retail side, for PCA to have moved. And I think it's a little bit better on the manufacturer side, you know?
Okay.
That feels like a solid point right
Hmm.
there. I definitely would agree with that, especially because mid March. Now we're looking at mid April, so you have almost 13 months
For the next
of
show.
before the next show. So
Yeah.
it definitely, yeah, like you said, that time to play with.
The
And
only
by then, I think a lot of people will new schedule will be down by then, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that. Look, I mean, creating a new size is pretty simple because you already have the bands for it. You just have to develop the box, which shouldn't be hard because you're already printing that box anyway. So it's not hard, doing something simple for PCA and then putting your, bigger launches, for July or something around that time, or even a little bit earlier than July, maybe May. It just, depending on how. Depending on how you do it. But the only thing that concerns me about PCA now is next year being, not that it's concerning, but you never know what's going to happen being in New Orleans, what kind of turnout you're going to get. A lot of my West Coast customers are telling me they're not planning on going. So I kind of understand, as a retailer, would you want to go? It's kind of, I love New Orleans, but it's like one day of New Orleans or 2 days of New Orleans, and then you kind of like over it. And plus the smoking, there's no smoking anywhere. So what are we gonna do? Like huddle up in tents, and like most people aren't gonna come because of how uncomfortable it's gonna be. So I don't know. Like who knows? Like maybe everyone leaves the convention center and then meets back up at the convention center, and we just all sit in a circle in a campfire and smoke cigars. Like I don't know, but that's that's the thing that worries about me in New Orleans. And if it's a bust and it doesn't do well, and people can't go back and be like, oh man, you missed it. You better go next year. If you don't get much of that, it's going to be bust for 2 years. You know what I mean? So unless they figure out a
Right, because
good,
they're already locked in for 2 years, right?
yeah, right? So unless people like me and you that are gonna go because you have to go kind of because you guys are doing the media side and I'm doing the manufacturer side. If we
Yeah.
go and then we don't come back and we're not like, oh my god, you guys missed the best show. Oh, the smoking didn't matter. They figured it out. It was perfect. It didn't even bother me. Unless you get that response, 2026 is gonna suck, guaranteed. You know what I mean? Because you're not gonna convince people to
And
come if you go back home and you're like, man, it sucked. There was nowhere to smoke. There was nowhere to, like if people's responses are that, 2026 is not going to be good either. So we'll see what happens. I think a lot of people are hopeful for TPE next year, being like West Coast, East Coast
Yeah.
shows. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And I'll be 100% honest. I actually thought this past show was one of the best I've been to, even though it was a shortened show and we were kind of under the gun for time to film and stuff. I think I might have had some of the most fun I've ever had coming to one of these events.
Agreed.
For as much as we had to do it for the time.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I
I
have
agree with
grievances.
you.
All right, I have grievances. I stole a mug from PCA. Frankie helped me with that because I think they have back taxes that PCA owes us on this because there was some stuff that we had to take care of. I mean, this is the media side of stuff. Like everything else went great.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong.
Tell me
I'm just
what
being bitter
happened?
about it. So the first thing is the first day, like we were talking about before we started. We weren't allowed on the floor.
Yeah.
For all of Friday. And we get there the day before so we could be there bright and early on Friday. Start work, get everything in there. Okay, not the end of the world. We can figure it out.
So what was
we
the
usually use that
excuse?
day to find.
What was the excuse why you weren't allowed the first day? I think media should be able to cover first day, right? I mean, that's all the seminars. That's the
Yeah, I mean,
important
we
stuff.
usually go in and guys are still setting up whatever. We understand that, but we like to get that too. We like to cover that. Everything going up and being built and getting ready for the first actual day.
Yeah.
This year they were just really stern about it. I mean, we
Yeah.
didn't get in an hour early like usual on Saturday, and then Sunday we got an email saying we could get in an hour early. Well, as soon as we get there, security's like, no, nobody's in early, nobody's in early. I had to literally show him the email before he started to believe it. Like, oh, okay, I guess so. So
Well,
it was condensed, but
they didn't even tell us like on our schedule that it was like there was no early access. It was be there at 9, be there at 10, be there. It was 10, 10, 9.
Yeah.
It was be there at 10, 10, and then 9 a.m. the last day. So, but look, from a vendor perspective, this show was amazing for us. It was a very good show. And I kept getting this from a lot of the manufacturers. It wasn't just me, but it seemed like there was a lot of buyers at the show. So for us, like, if you like, remember, and look, this is coming from like a cigar geek too that would always love to go to PCA even before I was a manufacturer, when I was a retailer. But the reason I think PCA was so fun this year is because the manufacturers were having fun. The manufacturers were having fun because everyone was buying. Like everyone that walked up to the booth was like sitting down, putting it. There was one point at my booth, which I've never seen this before. 4 of my brokers were taking orders, and then 2 customers were writing their own orders, which I've never seen a customer in my booth write their own order, right? So it's more like, hey, I want to make sure, like, so these guys would wait for us to call them. Oh, I came by the booth, you were busy, and then they would wait for you to call them. This time it wasn't like they're like, we need the product, we need to get it in. Here's the order. Make sure you they looked me in the eyes when they handed it to me to make sure I put it in. So and because of that, and because we were so busy, we were having so much fun because it was a good show. You know what I mean? When you have a show where you're getting, a lot of people just coming up and like, oh, can we get samples? Can we get samples? Can we get samples? And there's a lot of shops that send people, and like it's kind of a pain where like they send people to just keep constantly asking for samples. Like there's one shop. I don't even want to drop any names, but there's one shop that we don't even have as a customer, but they've come like 4 years in a row, and they send, and they just keep asking, and like we're at a point, and then everything. The funny thing is, like, everybody in the industry knows that they're eventually going to put them in their shop in like packs to sell. You know what I mean? So like, you're not even taking my cigar, smoking it. You're not. So because of those 2 things, there wasn't as many people asking for random samples. and everyone was literally doing business. Everyone that came in the booth was writing orders. We were having fun, obviously, because we just spent. And to give you an idea, me being as small as I am, like Sinistro was all in about 50K on PCA. You know what I mean? Between booth, hotel rooms for the whole team, food, the booth setup, the bringing it down. Like just so imagine like what Tatuaje or my father, like my father's booth this year was kind of smaller, but like, dude, I've heard that they pay 250 grand just for their booth, just to put up the union fees. You know what I mean? So like, like if you're doing that and all you see is people coming up to your booth and just asking for samples, like it's kind of annoying. You know what I mean? So like if that's not happening and everyone's constantly buying and all the manufacturers are having fun in turn, I think that's what made this show as good as it was, because every manufacturer I talked to was telling me the same thing. Like everyone's here to buy, everyone's here to buy. So, everyone was having fun. Everyone was in a good mood. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was upbeat.
See, that's the exact consensus I was getting to, and that's so much more important. Like the things I'm talking about that I'm complaining, and I am complaining, but there's so much of a backseat that it doesn't matter. Because, like Frankie said, I still had a great time, and everyone seemed like they're having a great time. There was almost no downtime walking that floor, which is why we were running around heads, or what do you call it, chicken with head cut off style the entire time. I absolutely love seeing that though.
And like, it makes the whole experience of the show more fun. And the sad thing is, like, finally it got back to where, like, back PCA is starting to get there again, and then all of a sudden there's a twist. New Orleans.
Go to New Orleans.
You're like, damn it. Like, so. If we stayed in Vegas, do I see it being consistent? I think next year would have been better, because again. Everybody goes home and says, bro, it was a blast last year. We had so much fun. And then everyone wants to come back. Now you could go and tell the whole world it was a blast. People are still in their brains. They don't want to go to New Orleans. So it doesn't matter how fun it was, And then again, if people come back from New Orleans without a good experience, 2026 is just going to be a bust. And I would probably, if that's the case, I would probably make my booth smaller in 2026. So we don't end up spending all that money. Because if people don't go back in groves talking about how good it was, no one's coming in 2026. I just, it's
right.
It doesn't make sense.
I mean, even at that point, like you're saying, even if they don't go back and say it was terrible or, oh, I didn't have a good time, even if they just go like, it was okay, it was fine.
Yeah.
Who's going to want to switch from a no to a yes for it was okay,
Yeah.
If you didn't go 2025 because you were on the fence, you have to hear great things to get off the fence.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and it's going to be hard. Hopefully PCA could pull it off. Hopefully, they did good. Like, I don't want to talk shit at all. This show was great. I fucking thought it was like levels higher, from last year. From last year to this year, you're talking about a huge change, and it was great. It did very good. So hopefully they're on, they're in pace to make New Orleans better. And, hopefully, they do make it rock, and the people that don't go in 2025 are, they feel bad about not going, and then they come in 2026. That's best case scenario, so I'm hopeful. Let's see what happens.
I think it's a solid plan. And I think well, it's not just us thinking that. I think PCA knows what's up. They know what they've got to have in store for them.
Yeah, they know the challenges that are going to come with New Orleans, but I think if they can pull it off, they'll do a fantastic job. But I want to get back to the cigar itself.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So,
I was supposed
to... No worries. The Desperado is a unique cigar because it refers to, correct me if I'm wrong, the flower on top of the plant being cut off. And I mean, I'm so confused. What exactly does that allow for the plant itself?
Okay, so Desperado means deflower. Literally, that's the meaning of the word. So what they do is usually, when they're doing the plants, they're growing the plants, they wait for that flower, the pink one all the way in the top. You know what I'm talking about? Hold on.
Yeah.
I think I have something. Give me 1 sec.
Okay.
Real quick, Purdue 4, UConn 3.
Who's everyone going for in here?
Okay, I got it. Bro,
Oh, there we go.
so you guys can see this is good. The
Yeah,
angle, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah.
these flowers right here, the pink flowers that grow at the top of the plant, usually you'll never see it in any of the tobacco field pictures because as soon as they seed, they cut them and then they take them to plant the next year, right? So it's to take the seeds and reuse the seeds. What Desperado they do for Desperado is they cut before the seeds develop. So all the nutrients will hit the leaf instead of sending all the nutrients for the seeds. The plant will now send all the nutrients to the leaves, which make it a little bit darker. If you look, this is like a little bit more brown as opposed to yellow Connecticut. Most Connecticut's are a little bit more yellow, and then this makes and then also it makes it a little bit stronger and a little bit sweeter.
Yes.
So
That definitely shines through.
yeah, so and then that sweetness is what made me like. As soon as I had smoked that, I'm like, dude, this needs an African Cameroon binder. As soon as I tasted it, I assumed either the African Cameroon binder is going to intensify the sweetness or it's going to totally ruin the cigar. So I was like, let me go. That was the attempt. That was good. That was like the first thing I thought about when I was smoking the pure grade is, dude, how can I intensify this sweetness? And the only other tobacco I could think about that has that, you know, intense sweetness to it, obviously non-flavored sweetness, but you know, like that's
Yeah.
not just, you know, we obviously know what we're talking about, but that sweetness, you know, I was like, what can intensify it? I thought it was going to either be overbearing or too linear, but or it's going to intensify it and bring it out a little bit better and intensify the flavor notes. So luckily that's what it did, and I didn't have to go back and blend a whole new cigar. So
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. I mean, like you said though, there might have been that situation where it's either going to be amazing or you said it's going to ruin it. This is okay. This is a little tangent, but it's completely relevant to what we're talking about. So I was listening to a podcast about one of the grand chess masters, and
all
they
right.
talk about like before the internet, before video recording and all that, they literally like wrote down all their moves and stuff, and these dudes would just read old chess matches to see like, oh shit, they did this, they did these moves. They would get in the minds of older chess masters just by reading the actual, like almost like a sheet music, like music. um, are you at that point where you're looking at the blends, like what everything tastes like, what's going to go somewhat together already, where it's like writing a song almost? You have the blend already on paper, and then you actually go put it into the actual skew.
Yeah, so I have a total different way I blend, um, and it's, I kind of already have the blend in my head before what's going on, Robert? Before I actually, like, I already have an idea in my head of how I'm going to work the blend before once I usually it's whenever I'm trying something new, like the Connecticut Desperado or the Dominican broadleaf that we used in our 10-year anniversary, um, or even like when I'm blending something that like when a customer's telling me, hey, I want floral notes, or I want this, I want that, I'm kind of already making the blend in my head while he's talking and telling me what he wants. I'm hoping at the end result will be good. Usually when I do it for a consumer, for like a like another company or a house blend or somebody like that, I do two blends just to like make sure that they have 2 points to work off of. Like one could be totally terrible for all I know, so at least there's two. Both could be amazing, one could be mediocre, the other one could be terrible, but at least there's a starting point, you know what I mean, where I know what the customer didn't like. But now kind of when I'm blending, like I already have it in my head. I kind of already know what I'm going towards. I kind of put everything together in my head and then put it on paper. And then, I turn it in pretty much to the master blender at the factory. And I kind of tell them, can you make this for me? And like I said, sometimes I'll have 2 or 3 just because I'm not sure if the end result's going to be exactly what I want. But, I've been, it just usually people sit there and they smoke pure grade after pure grade after pure grade, or put 2 together and try to take puffs of it. I don't, for me, I don't think that I don't think that's going to give you the best result because one pure grade could be rolled super tight, the other one's not rolled super tight. You can't really tell. Even with the ammonia, as soon as it's rolled on the table, at least you can get a idea of what the blend is going to be when you're done with it. You know what I mean? As opposed to just smoking pure grades. That's just kind of the way I blend. I It's kind of hard in this industry to go look at old blends because no one's going to give you their old blends to look at to kind of like compare or see what they were
No.
doing. So it's that. Yeah, I've never seen any other manufacturer's blends. I've worked with people while they're blending, you know what I mean? But like even when you read the stuff that's in half wheel and all the other stuff, no one's giving out. I mean, everything falls to percentages, right? And everything falls to fermentation, how people age the tobacco and the clones and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, no matter what, no one's giving out their key ingredients or recipes. So I have no idea how blends get made, or I just know how other when I've blended with other people, most of the time, 99% of the time, it's where they're smoking pure grades. With me, I'll smoke the pure grade once, unless there's a huge change to the flavor profile of that tobacco, which only should happen like if there's been drastic weather changes, or if obviously you take the seed and you go grow it somewhere else. So like at Connecticut, I know what a Connecticut tastes like from Connecticut, obviously, but when they started doing Connecticut, Ecuador, I definitely wanted to try it. You get what I'm saying? To learn what that flavor profile was like.
Oh heck yeah. No, I definitely could say. My point being though before was not so much that you see other people's stuff, but the fact that you know the ingredients enough where you can like it's
Yeah,
already in your head kind of thing, right? Like that's what
yeah.
I'm talking about. Yeah.
I haven't even
It's like
like yeah, I haven't even been back to the DR yet, and I've worked out some like I haven't been back. This is like my longest stretch not going back. It's been like I don't know 7, 8 months, something like that. I'm going back at the end of this month. So, but I've sent some like blends out, and I had the factory roll them and send them with me here, and it's been consistent, and they've been very very good. I've sold a few of them already, so like you know
nice.
um, I like going back there for picking bales and picking my tobacco more than I do. Don't get me wrong, I love blending. That's my favorite thing in the whole world. But I've kind of gotten into science where I technically don't need to be there. Nowhere near a savant, bro. Please do not. I feel like I'm a good blender, but still have a long way to go. There's a lot of stuff I still need to learn. There's a lot of tobacco out there I haven't even tried. So
Hey, that's
I
got to be one of the best parts. So knowing that there's always something new, or hopefully there's always going to be something new, though.
yeah,
Now
especially now
back
with
to go ahead.
especially now with seed splicing, and like there's so much stuff that's constantly coming out that if you're not like there's so much like now they have seed splicing, so they'll take 3 different seeds, splice them, and put them together, and now you have a whole new tobacco growing. You know what I mean? And obviously that doesn't happen overnight, but there's some farmer testing it, growing it for 5 years, checking the consistency, checking how good it is, checking, you know what I mean? And then 6, 7 years later, someone like me will be able to get their hands on it, smoke it, and then another 5 years down the line, someone like you will get your hands on it and smoke it. You know what I mean? But like, there's so much new stuff coming out right now. There's nothing but good stuff happening in the industry, and there's only growth. There's like so many new variants coming out. There's so many. It's going to be hard to keep track with everything that's coming out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I love that. I love the sound of that.
Yeah. So I had a quick question back to the flower. You said it's where it gets the seeds. They take it off before it starts to get the nutrients. So does that
So
mean once they cut it off, that plant's that those seeds are done? I mean, you can't replant them,
yeah,
or
yeah.
are they
So no,
still
no. So,
viable?
so so when you wait for the seeds, so that's where the seeds will grow, the flower, right? So if you
Right.
wait for it to
Yeah.
grow in the flower and you cut it right when it has the seeds, then you could replant next year. But if you cut it before it starts giving the seeds, like we do for the Desperado wrapper, they're gone. You can never use them again. So the reason why Desperado is so rare is because obviously farmers aren't making a ton of money growing tobacco, right? So they need their seeds for next year. If you don't grow Desperado right,
100%.
if you don't grow it right, you've lost that whole crop. So it's mostly farmers that have a lot of money or factories that have a lot of money that'll be attempting to do the Desperado, as opposed to, like a small farmer that he's not going to put his whole livelihood on the line for that year and maybe get terrible tobacco. You know what I mean? So that's what
Yeah.
makes Desperado so rare, is that there's not a lot of people out there willing to grow it or wanting to grow it, because they could lose their whole crop. Technically, if it's not done right, you've messed up, and that's it. The crop's done. You can't do anything with it.
That sounds like
that was my question right there. I was wondering about that. Okay.
It sounds like a big high risk, high reward situation right there. That sounds that'd be stressful to say the least.
Mhm.
It's not a cheap wrapper. It's not it's not on the super high end expensive wrappers, but it's definitely not a cheap wrapper. I'm sure if it wasn't for my boy, your sponsor on that side over there, El Artista, I probably would be paying a lot more for that wrapper. But I have a really good relationship with Ram, so he's hooked me up. But the wrapper it's definitely expensive for Connecticut. It's definitely not your regular Connecticut wrapper, especially Ecuadorian. Ecuadorian's obviously a little bit cheaper, but it's more expensive than a regular Connecticut from Connecticut. It's definitely more expensive than an Ecuadorian. It's almost like broadleaf. Not there yet, but almost close to broadleaf price.
What do you call it? Yeah, and well, honestly, Ram's also our cousin, so he has to do whatever we want. Like, he can't. He's part of the family. He's not allowed. He's a Rodriguez, so
I never met a member in his family that couldn't speak Spanish, bro.
Okay, no.
You're the long lost member, right?
God damn it. Oh, okay. You know what? I'm gonna tell you too, because I think I mentioned this on the last video. I don't know if I told you already, but I made this promise. I think to Enrique first over at Matilde.
Yeah,
because we're talking about that too. He's also making fun of me because somehow that's now everywhere. When I see you in New Orleans, I see you in New Orleans, I'm gonna be speaking Spanish. I promise you that. It's going to happen.
How about just say I'll be practicing and trying to speak Spanish? Because saying like you're going to be speaking Spanish means like we got to have a full-on conversation in Spanish, not just like "Hola, cómo estás?" You know what I mean? Like it's got to be full blown.
I'm gonna go high school Spanish 2 at least. Boom, Spanish 2. We're not talking about talking philosophy or anything, but enough to where I will be somewhat literate. How about that? We'll go that.
You're not just smiling and nodding.
No more smiling and nodding.
And look, the thing is, when you like, it's one thing talking with me in Spanish, but when you get somebody like Ram or somebody like when they're not thinking that they're talking to somebody like me, and they go really fast. If they go really fast, bro, it goes over my head. Like if especially with a couple of street slangs in there, I'm lost. So if they're not talking, not slow, but if they're not, because Spanish sometimes it's like and they go like super rapid, bro, like very very fast. If you're getting that kind of Spanish, even me sometimes I'll get stuck. You know what I mean? But you just practice, bro. I'm telling you, just practice. Get yourself like a Dominican girlfriend. You'll figure it out in a week.
I'm okay with that. I'm down for that. That sounds like the best study group I've ever had.
Yeah,
it happens so many. I got to learn a few languages, especially for the tobacco industry. I mean, just here in town, some of the owners they're talking Arabic, and they're talking to me like trying to get me to agree with them. And I'm like, what are you doing to me? I can't understand a word you're saying.
Yeah,
but it's fine.
Arabic's gonna be a tough one. I think it's like the level 5 difficulty language. Arabic and Japanese and Chinese, I think, are the 3 hardest languages. So good luck with that one. Spanish is much easier to learn, but the hard part about Spanish is like the he and she. Like, you know what I mean? They are. You got to learn. Like there isn't. There's the way you have like they like. So there's when you use the word, the action of the word, you have to use the word they in the action of the. We get what I'm saying? So like
it's the male and female version of each word and all that.
And then there's nosotros. Nosotros is we, and then there's what I mean. So like look at me as mírame, and then And so we are looking as nosotros veremos. You know what I mean? So like it's very, that part is the hardest part for me to get down. But ever since practicing it and stuff, I got it all down. So I'm pretty good at it. Like you could leave me in the middle of nowhere and I'll figure it out and I'll find my way back and you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm pretty confident. Like I said, I just take myself on adventures in the Dominican all the time. I'm sure you watch Coleman's videos.
Oh yeah.
And
Some of
that's
the
what
ones
you
that
guys
he
gotta
sends,
know
I
Spanish
can't
for
always
too
go.
when you come with me to DR, bro.
That's the plan. Honestly, I want to make that happen, but I also want to make sure I can contribute to conversations before that happens too. You know, at least a little bit.
Yeah. So now, like, whenever I have a meeting in some of the factories, they make sure everybody knows I know how to speak Spanish. So, like, someone doesn't say something accidentally and then I have to correct them, you know? And then I had a customer one time at one of the events and he's like, "What are you?" And I was like, "I'm Armenian, dude." You know, he's like, "Oh, well, if I'm going to buy cigars from anybody, they got to know how to speak Spanish." And this dude was Cuban. And I was like, "Oh, okay, no problem." You know, and I started, like, you know, talking to him in Spanish. And then he turned around and looked at me. He's like, "Bro, I was kidding. I don't know any Spanish." So the whole night, I only talked to him in Spanish. So I was like, that's what you asked for, bro. That's what you're going to get.
That's what he wanted. I mean, yeah, you can't argue with that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
Archie, how you doing?
Archie checking.
So the Desperado, we got the Toro, we got the Robusto, we got the special size Bellicoso. Will we be seeing a Lancero?
Oh,
Actually, I'm actually working on one right now for a shop. It's not exactly a Lancero. I was thinking about doing this and the Perfecto. I did a run of them. They tasted phenomenally well. He wanted a Lancero. So I was like, here, let me do I'm going to be working on I especially in a Lancero, you're going to kind of have to reblend the cigar. Not reblend, but to make sure, wrapper, filler, binder ratio is all good. And you want to make sure it's going to taste consistent to the Robusto and the Toro, not over extreme on Lajero or what's something else that's inside the blend. So I was like, listen, I'm planning on doing it's a 6.5 by 44. And I was like, I'm planning on doing one in Barbarian and Desperado just to see how they are. But I got to tweak the blend and figure it out and, this and that. So I did it. It worked. I did the blends. They came out phenomenal, but we wanted to drop the Perfecto this year. So we just went with the Perfecto, but I had already done the 6.5 by 44. So it's going to go to Puro Humo in Glendale down the street from my office right here. You guys know Tony or?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. So, that's not too far from us either. There we go.
Yeah. So, and obviously, when I put in the order, I'll probably make an extra 100 or something for myself. So I won't lie.
Nothing wrong with that.
I always do.
You gotta have a little.
Yeah. I have literally first release of everything we've done, more now than I did in the first few years. Obviously, now I try to keep 5 of every first run, before I have 1 of every first run. But I try to keep a little bit of everything in stock. And it's also for customers too, bro. If a customer calls me and he's like, "Hey bro, I really, really need this," or "Hey, I'm doing a big event and I want something out of your archives," or, along those lines, I'll put stuff out, it's not a big deal.
Huh. This is kind of a more, I don't know if this is direct, he's asking where they're from, but Archie's saying, where is Sinistro from? Where would you consider yourself from then in this context?
Well, okay, I'll make it very simple. I was born in Lebanon. I'm Armenian. The cigars are made in the Dominican Republic, but we use all nations of tobacco growth: Peru, Colombia, Honduras, Nicaragua, Ecuador, all of the above. So I mean, hopefully that answers all of them. Oh, and then the office is in Glendale, California. So I think that pretty much sums up every single "where are you from" question. Unless he was asking for my gang affiliation, then I don't know if I could just throw up gang signs on this video.
No, we get watched pretty closely by the cartel. Mainly Frankie's fault, but that's because he said some disrespectful things.
Oh yeah, be careful, dude. Those guys are crazy.
Yeah, what was that Mexican singer who said something bad in a town on stage in the same night? What was that?
They found him at a club, and they did not like those comments that he made. But dude, I just flew.
Yeah.
I just flew into Cancun, and I didn't realize this, but I figured. I mean, I figured this out afterwards. But the whole airport, there was no police. It was all military. It was all Mexican military. And then, like every plane that landed, 99% of the plane got searched. Not the other way around, where it was like 1% got searched and 99% walked through. You know, and they like literally every bag, bro. They pulled every bag we had, went through them one by one, and they kept asking me for vapes. I was like, no, man, I don't. There's no vapes in here, but I have cigars. I'm like, you know. And he's like, where are the cigars from? I'm like, oh, they're mine, you know. And then talked a little bit about that, and then he was asking me how I know Spanish, blah blah blah. But I come to find out, Mexico has replaced a lot of the um, like policing stuff with military now. So it's kind of become
Yeah.
like it's crazy, dude. Like I'll tell you right now, as a tourist, like that was not a comfortable feeling, especially when you get off of like a 6 hour flight. You don't want to like mandatory have some dude you don't even know going through your bags and stuff, you know, like hands in your drawers and stuff. Like it's kind of, you know, it's one thing if it's like, and like, look, it's a huge line. It's 1%, you know, you're in and out quick, but like you're sitting there, first you're waiting an hour for your bag, then you're waiting an hour for this guy to go through your drawers and stuff, you know? So it's like, it's, I don't know, man. I was kind of turned off by that whole experience. It wasn't like TSA agents, it was like military, you know?
In their defense, though, James, I would also search you. I just got.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, no, this guy's up to something. That's. I think it might have just been you that particular time.
Look, I totally
you're
agree
like,
with you
oh,
on that. See, I already cleared that part up. I told you if I was the 1%, I'm used to that. I'm not used to waiting in a long line to get searched. I'm used to getting in a short line. You know, 1% of the plane, me and like two other guys get searched that, you know, look kind of like me, and we get off the plane, we're good to go, bro. You know what I mean? Like, not wait an hour for the whole plane to get searched. You know, like, come on, like dude. I think off of my plane, only 2 people walked out without getting searched. Like a 300-400 person plane, bro. You know what I mean? So imagine, then there's like 5 planes that land at the same time. Imagine how long you're waiting to get searched, and then you walk outside, and every cabbie's trying to rape you, pretty much for like one guy's like, "Oh, $500, I'll take you to your resort," and the other dude's like, "Oh yeah, bro." The other dude's 300. The other one's like, and it's like a 20-minute drive, dude. It's insane. You have to get a shuttle from your hotel and all this stuff. It was crazy, bro. It was crazy. It was not.
Yeah.
It was not the experiences I've had in Mexico in the past.
I mean, it's rough right now. There's a lot going on, but hopefully for the better, it's gonna gradually get better.
Well, as long as whatever is happening in Ecuador is not happening where you guys, I mean, in Mexico, that's fine. You know, Ecuador is really messed up, and that could hurt the industry a lot. I don't know if you guys have seen. There's like guerrillas taking over the military. There's like videos of military guys on their knees, and then the guerrillas are just walking like down the line and just popping them in the one by one, like in the head. It's crazy. Like it's literally, you know, almost out for civil war. You know, people that I know, you know, the factories I know that have that grow tobacco there, they're not sending their teams anymore. They're sending like one guy just to make sure it's getting loaded on the plane. No one's checking the quality, like just to get it out. And then they're checking everything in Dominican. They're paying extra money just so they're, you know, usually you check quality there and then you ship out because you don't want to pay for shipping for the stuff you're not going to use. You know what I mean? Or stuff that you could ship from there to like somebody who's going to use it for cigarettes or something like this, you know? Now they're just shipping everything and then sorting in the Dominican, which obviously adds expense to it. You know what I mean? So it's like Ecuador could cause a problem long term for a lot of companies. Because if you notice, 99% of the boutiques that everybody loves, the rappers are Ecuadorian. You know, they're not Habano from Dominican anymore. It's not, you know, they're very rare. Like the bigger companies are hoarding all that rappers. So like, if you notice, everyone's using Ecuadorian Habano or Ecuadorian Sumatra or Ecuadorian Connecticut or you know, so if Ecuador goes into shambles, you know, the big guys are not going to hurt. It's a lot of the boutiques that are going to end up getting screwed because they're just not going to have wrapper available.
Yeah, I mean, that's the world's going pretty crazy right now. But like you were talking about earlier, like the prices on wrappers, you know, from the growing aspect, but the political aspect too. It's amazing that the prices are where they're at right now at all. You know, like you would expect with so much going on, it'd be skyrocketing crazy. But everyone's been doing such a great job trying to keep it at a somewhat,
Well,
reasonable price point still.
you got to be realistic, bro. Because look, you can't all of a sudden, cigars can't be $40 in the retail stores. Like the factories know that, you know what I mean. So the good factories that I've been working with have been trying their best, to keep their production, to keep their costs down on me, and not kind of, especially on the stuff that they grow, because they know, it's hopefully, some of the stuff will eventually go back down. There's not going to be, the threat from Yemen attacking the ships in the Suez Canal, driving, shipping prices and rates all the way up. There's not going to be, hopefully fertilizer comes back down in costs, and, hopefully, like, there's still hope. So I think a lot of the growers and the, manufacturers are eating it now. I have had slight increases across the board, obviously, but there's some. So you could tell when what increases what. You know what I mean? There's some that are like, oh, it's going to go up 40%, and you're like, oh, you're just the thief now. Then there's other people that are doing it so like you could still stay in business, because at the end of the day, like, a Cowboy Maduro should not be $30 in the store. It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Well, yeah, exactly. Don't get me wrong. You gotta know, where you're in, what country you're in, and what the taxes are and stuff. But like, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
The industry would crumble if everything was $30-$40, and then El Septimo would be like $800.
I don't. Let's go into that another day, right there. Oh my god.
Well,
Maybe-
imagine if
no, just
Sinistro was like 30-40, how much would Davidoff be? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got, it's all relative,
it's true. That's very true. But at the same time, I'm impressed with how, and I don't think a lot of people we talk about this from time to time, how incredible the process is to get something into your hand to enjoy at these price points to begin with. It's kind of staggering when you think about it all.
Yeah, it is. It's insane, because you look at how much manpower goes. That's 300 hands. That's like the average across the board, right? So you got to think that's 150 people. For just the process to get it to you. You know what I mean? So it's very it's very labor intensive, and obviously if it wasn't being done in the countries it was being done in, it wouldn't be possible. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
like, you have to have a certain minimum wage in that country to produce the product, or it just wouldn't work. And it's sad. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's true though. It's all true across the board there. Although I am thankful that that Sinistro has not gone with their $150 cigar. Like, I think 3 people released this last year. I think there's been a big uptick in that.
The year is still young, my friend.
Jesus,
I don't know, bro.
on.
It has to be for me, and I'm not knocking on anybody. It is, as a manufacturer, I've smoked one cigar, in my whole life. What's up, JJ? That was $150. I paid $50. I was retailing it in my shop for $150, but it was a cigar that you have to be a diplomat visiting Cuba to get. It's like very hard to get your hands on. It has a white label and a gold leaf on it. It's very it's very different kind of label. It's very simple. And I had a connection with Ellie Blue, and Ellie Blue was a French company back in the day.
Yeah.
And the owner of Ellie Blue was a French Armenian, and he was bringing in a whole bunch of these rare Cubans like Chase and all this stuff, and I was selling them under the table at the shop. And one day I was like, man, let me try one of these, because I didn't know if it was I didn't think there was a cigar that was worth $150, and I smoked it, and it was phenomenal. And it tasted like a Reese's peanut butter cup the whole smoke through. It was amazing. It was like one of the best flavors I've ever gotten from a cigar. I have yet to smoke another cigar that I could tell you is worth $150, and I've smoked every cigar out there, bro. So, I just can't put that price point on there for something that I could go and, create myself.
I feel that.
Dealing with third world countries, I read the question. It's crazy, dude. It's hard dealing with and even some of the manufacturers. Like I'm not going to throw out any names, but I was talking to one of my friends. He works high up in one of the bigger companies, and like he was telling me how hard it was just to explain to some guy in their respective country how to put the not that they don't know how to put the bands on properly, but like in Canada you have to do plain packaging and you have to have plain bands. So like my Canadian cigars,
Yeah.
they won't have cowboy on it. It'll say cowboy robusto natural, and that's it. So
Yeah.
he was saying how difficult it was uh, uh, to just explain to the guys how to do that. And like that should tell you something. Like that should pretty much break it down to you. And this is a way bigger company than me, way bigger than me, vertical, like, and they're having that, like that, just that issue that they're having themselves, like that's. But you're always dealing with problems, stuff that's supposedly lost in translation, but you don't know if it's really lost in translation. You don't know if it's just they forgot, or they just didn't want to do that part. But making the boxes, the boxes have been very, very hectic dealing with. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
some factories here or there have been very painful to deal with too.
I
Well,
can only imagine. Yeah. So
other than
as far as Sinistro goes,
selling the actual cigars, because the first like 3 years was intense and hard, and I would go home like sad every night, because everyone was like, who the fuck are you and why is anyone going to buy your cigars? So once you could get over that hump, the next challenge is just dealing with the box factory, the band factory. Then you get an order from Canada, and it's like I just got an order from Canada. We started shipping to Canada, and you don't know how it's going to work in Canada, so you have to make bands for Canada. So you have to go deal with a band factory. You don't want to print like a million of them, so you can't use a U.S. factory. You got to make sure you use one of the factories in the Dominican, because their quantities are lower. But then they're like, oh yeah, we'll have it in 2 weeks. You don't get it for like 2 months. Just dealing with stuff like that, and constantly texting the guy like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Where are you? What's happening with that? It works you down.
Sorry, I had a question. Are you guys gonna go to Intertabac this year?
Mm, I'm planning on it. If it happens, I don't know. But yeah, I'm planning on doing Intertabac. We got a lot of we started. So we started Canada, Swiss. We had done last year, and they're doing really well with us. Norway. We're talking to Saudi, Germany, Dubai, and Australia right now.
Oh wow.
So yeah, the Cuban insanity of their price increases have helped us out a lot with getting in it. Like, dude, I was talking to a couple of retailers in Canada, and back in the day, 100% of the humidor was Cuban. Now it's 25% Cuban, 75% what they call New World cigars. So the international markets opened up a lot. It's not hurting Cuba at all, because if you notice, there was a Half Real article on how they did their biggest volume in numbers, but that's easy to do when you double your price. You know what I mean? So obviously they sold less cigars, but they're making more money now because their cigars are more expensive. So, that helps Cuba out a lot, because the issue they're having is they don't have enough tobacco, they don't have enough cigars. So they're just kind of pricing their cigars out of selling out, and kind of maybe, hopefully, maybe taking care of some of their soil now. But that was actually a very smart move on China's behalf. I know as a consumer, everyone gets pissed off and stuff, but it's actually, it will make Cuban cigars better doing this, because now they're not producing as many, but they're still making the same amount of money. So for any business, that's a plus side. So now they could hopefully put more money into, taking care of the soil, revamping the soil, giving the soil a rest or the needed nutrients they need, instead of constantly just, using the soil and raping the land. You know what I mean? Um, and I don't know, bro. We're not a t-shirt company. We're a cigar company. But when I make some guayaberas, I'll definitely let you know, boo boo.
You know he'd look good in it, right? JJ would pull that off very well.
JJ will look good in anything, bro. I got to make a Desperado guayabera now.
Ooh, yeah. But what you're saying though is a really good point though. If you think long term, because you want this to last indefinitely, you don't want to just burn out, and that's what would happen if you continue to just take not take care of the soil. Excuse me. It goes for
Yeah.
any farmland. You have to take care of it.
So, I mean, I think if and it looks like I'm because they obviously the same company bought Altadis, right? So, I've been talking to people that deal with Altadis and do business with Altadis, like wholesale tobacco and all sorts of stuff, and they have nothing but good things to say about the Chinese company that bought them, and they're saying that they're doing they're actually better than the the older American companies. So I'm assuming the things they are doing with the Cubans are steps to make them back to being like. Because look, I'll be honest with you, like some of the best cigars I've ever smoked were Cuban, but if you pick up a Boulevard Bellicoso Fino right now, it tastes kind of ashy. Like if you buy a box of Partagas Lusitania anywhere in the world, 12 out of 20 are gonna have a tight draw. Like so. Hopefully, these are issues that are gonna be corrected. So now at some point, you could fix these problems because you're not mass producing anymore, but your company's still making, X amount of dollars every year. And most of it now you're making a lot more profit. So now you have the money to reinvest into what you have there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, bro. I feel like I make very, and like I said, dude, some of the one of my favorite Cubans is the Juan Lopez number 2 cab, and that thing smokes amazing. The last couple of them I've had didn't remind me of the flavor profile, and again, don't get me wrong, like now all of a sudden, if it's $140 Cohiba Robusto, doesn't mean I'm gonna go buy it, but that smoker that loves Cubans and is looking for that flavor profile, whether it was that flavor profile that they had 10 years ago, or now you guaranteed to get it for $100. I thought the stupidest thing was you buying the Cuban motto was like, spend $1,000 on this box, but you have to take it home and age it for 2 years because it's not ready to smoke. Like, why did I spend $1,000 on this box if I have to go age it for 2 years? Like, that's something you should have done if I'm spending this much money on the box, so hopefully those things are getting taken care of, and the consumer that can afford that price point cigar is going to be happy with what they buy. You know what I mean? And again, don't get me wrong, like every once in a while, like I might go splurge and buy one, but definitely not going to be going and buying them like by the box anytime soon, especially at those price points. But there will be, and hopefully for that end user, it'll be better item that they're buying now.
Yeah, that's the hope right there. Yeah. Honestly, yeah, it's that even if the price is kind of high, ridiculously high sometimes, if you're still having that experience that you want, that's what makes it worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you have the money and you want to spend your money on it, go for it, bro. Like it's up to you what you want to do with your life, like, right? So if it's $140 now and you're like, oh, they ruined it for me, it sucks, as an end user. But at the end of the day, that's not what the company was going for. It's like the same thing with when Matt sold, and everyone's like, oh, you sold out because he went to Forge. No, dude, he did the American dream. He sold. You know what I mean? Like, I saw so many comments about, like it just doesn't make sense. Like, I didn't work my ass off to just take a check. Like, the guy's got a family. He's got a kid. He like if you follow him now, he's like traveling all over the world. Like, he's living his best life. Like, why not have that for your family and your, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So, it sucks. Yes, being the consumer, and it sucks. But I mean, from what I've seen that he's been bringing out, he's still been kind of Matt Booth. You know what I mean? If you look at all the stuff that he's been putting his hands into in the Forge profile, like he's still doing what he needs to do. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I still think like it sucks as the end user, but now you just won't have, don't smoke it as much. You know what I mean? Like now, save the Cuban for a special occasion. Don't buy it by the box, you know?
Sure.
But you're going to have a better,
Yeah, it's
hopefully,
not the end of the world.
you're going to have a better experience now when you buy that cigar as opposed to like 2 years ago. You know, like I said, from my experiences, Cubans have not been what they were, 10, 15 years ago.
That's been across the board from
Yeah.
my understanding.
Yeah.
That's not been a crazy thought to have. But like you said, hopefully this is something that can help alleviate some of those stresses, for everyone across the board, across the entire, what's the word I'm looking for? Entire manufacturing process can have a little more breathing room now.
And they could process the stuff better. They could do better product for you. They can bring out better product for you. And like, yeah, maybe you might not enjoy a Cuban as much as they used to, but if it went up 50%, you'll smoke 50% less, but it'll be 50% better. But now, hopefully, if you buy a box of Partagas Lusitanas, if you buy a box of 12 of them won't be plugged. You know what I mean? Like literally, I was having that conversation at PCA with a guy who owns 400 stores. And a couple other manufacturers, and he brought out a Lusitania and he was passing them out to everybody. And I was like, oh, did you get all the ones with the plugs out of them yet? And then he started laughing and he's like, yeah, bro, can you believe that? I spent this much money on the box and like 8 to 12 of them are going to be plugged. And, so even if like, hopefully like now that guy who buys that box of Lusitanias is going to get 20 for 20, not 8 for 20 or 12 for 20 that smoke good, So I think, and again, from what I've heard about the people who bought Altadis, I think that what they're doing is going to benefit their sales and their quality of their cigars, hopefully,
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. So you mentioned at the beginning of the show, you're headed back to the DR at the end of the month. And I know you said you're working on the other sides of the Desperado. And was it the Buddha or the Barbarian? Is there anything else going on up there that you're thinking about working with? Is there any tobacco that's waiting for you when you get there?
Oh shoot! Real quick too, Eduardo. Plug means that it's not smoking correctly. You can't get a draw out of it.
Tight draw.
Tight draw. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just for Eduardo. Yeah.
When it's rolled too tight and you can't draw, and then if you keep smoking that thing, eventually your tongue feels like someone took a razor and cut it up. One time I was on my drive from San Jose to LA and all I had was a plug cigar. And this was before Sinistro. So it wasn't a Sinistro I was smoking, but this is when I was a retailer and that was the only cigar I had. So I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll suffer through it. And I just literally smoked it the whole way down. And bro, my tongue felt like someone took razors and cut it because like I should have just thrown it out, but that's plugged is usually when you can't get a draw and you pretty much have to throw it away. And it happens. Don't get me wrong. It's going to happen with any cigar company. Plugs happen. It's a handmade product. Anything that's handmade is going to have issues from time to time. It's a naturally growing leaf. That all these things come into play. You know what I mean?
Now, what's a worse pain than that, or when you get the roof of your mouth cut from too much sugar? Which one's worse? Boom.
I haven't had that experience in such a long time because I haven't eating that much sugar anymore. So I would stick with I used to have that all the time, bro. I love sweets, bro, but I've kind of calmed myself down. So I haven't had that issue in a very long time. But I don't know. They're both pretty bad. They're both pretty bad. They're both pretty bad.
I don't like what I'm hearing here. You're not getting more mature on me, are you? You're not starting like, no, don't do that.
Bro, I haven't, dude. I had one beer, I think, at PCA. I haven't drank. The last time I drank before that one beer at PCA was probably at my friend's birthday, and then before that, it was like probably in the DR a year before that. Tonight, as soon as we're done with the show, I'll be back inside the office putting everything in the humidor. We just got our production in today, so like it was supposed to come in Wednesday. But with freight, it's just up in the air. Usually it comes late, but since we had something scheduled today and I wasn't ready to receive it, it came early because, it just had to, you know what I mean? So, so pretty much once we get done, I'll be in the next room, pretty much putting everything in the humidor. So tomorrow morning, when everybody comes into the office, we could just start shipping and getting product out. So I just, for me, it's like, for me, it's for two reasons. One, obviously, I want to make sure um, everything's in the humidor and ready to go. But also, I look at it from the consumer standpoint. Like the faster we get stuff moving tomorrow, the faster it gets in consumers' hands, the faster they're happier. That kind of spiel. So instead of spending half the day tomorrow getting everything in the humidor, counting it out, right? So we got everything into the staging area, and most of it's in the humidor. I'm just got to put the rest of it in there tonight. There's been a couple of, we had a price increase, so I had some orders before the price increase, so I got to manage that stuff out. Then there was the California tax, because we had a price increase. California tax goes up, so all that's got to be entered in the computer before we start shipping. So I'll pretty much be doing all that tonight till like about midnight, until my body will be like, no more, motherfucker. And then I'll go home and knock out and come back tomorrow and do the same thing again. So don't get me wrong, I love to drink and stuff. It just, you can't, like, once I drink, bro, I lose 2 days. You know what I mean? The hangover the next day. It's not like you're in your 20s and you just bounce back and, get back to work at 10 a.m. So I am getting responsible, but it's more because my body is making me, as opposed to me wanting to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think these younger guys realize that. It's not like we're in our 20s anymore. We can bounce back. After we're done with the where do we go? Tap and Ash and 8 Lounge and Legacy Club. We're back at Fremont where we stay. It's like bars are still open. It's like, well, let's go get some more drinks. Like, no, you want me to be up at 7:30, 8 o'clock? Let me go to bed.
Don't be mad at me because I drank that night and I was still at the gym at 6 a.m. All right, I was still doing fine. That's not a joke. I was at PCA. I went to the gym that morning. I was like, no, I'm good to go. Let's do this.
You're crazy, but I respect that, bro. You're crazy, but I respect the hell out of it. But go, keep doing what you're doing. Obviously, it shows you look fucking great. But I don't know how they do it, bro. Because some of these guys are like Clay from La Polina. I went to his dinner, and he was like, I was already going home, and he's like, yeah, I've been doing this for 3 nights, and I'm like, dude, I got to bed that night at 3 a.m. So I can imagine what time he got to bed, and I wasn't drinking because I know I had to be at the booth the next morning. But dude, like, I went to bed at 3 a.m. Actually, I got to my bed at 3 a.m. I had met a lot of people at the dinner, so like, it takes me a minute to wind my brain down. So by the time I knocked out, it was probably like 3:34, and then I was up at 7 to get back to the booth. So I'm like, I was like a mess. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know how. And Clay, he's at his booth every day at opening, and I'm like, how do you do it, bro? Like, how do you do it? It's crazy. I don't know how they do it, bro. I can't anymore. But some of these guys, they're like, they got they got a younger heart than I do.
What do you call? Well, all right, brother. We are over our hour by a minute now. It's like by a bit. We're gonna let you get back to work though. But before we, just a little bit, nothing crazy. But we do want to let you get back to work because I know you got plenty to do. But before we let you go, is there any events or anything you want to make sure people know about coming up?
So I don't think I could talk too much about my drops just yet for July, but I'm sure we could get on another show beforehand and I could drop some knowledge on it, on what we're doing in July. I do have events coming up the next few months. Actually, this Saturday, I'll be in Hesperia at Havana Cigar Lounge doing an event. So if you're in the area, come on out. I got one in Idaho at the Vault at the end of June. I got one in San Diego, and then I got another one in Sacramento in July. So, I mean, just check out the Instagram and Facebook for Sinistro. We post our events always at the top of the page, and then we take it down the day after. So if it's up there, that means the event is still ongoing. Just check the date, the location, and I'll be there. Don't worry. Like I said, I'll be in Idaho, San Diego within the next few months, and then September, I know I'm doing Oklahoma. And I'm sure there's a couple of other stuff in there somewhere, bro.
Now, you mentioned San Diego. Will that be with Dino?
No, I have one with Habanos in San Diego, but
Nice.
I will be doing one for Dino, I'm sure. I just got to figure out my schedule. Like, now that the product came in, I haven't figured out what I'm going to do. I have one last week of April kind of open. So I got to figure out if I might go to San Diego, but if I do select a day with Dino, it'll be like in the future. It won't be last minute. You know what I mean? Because I want to give him enough time to like market and get it going for him. But I will be down at
You gotta let
Dino's
me save up
soon.
my dollar bills too.
Yeah, I know, bro. I know, dude. I don't know if you've been there lately, but the selection of like the atmosphere is a lot better now.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah. We wanna get back down there. We wanna go down and see Rick too.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. I'll let you guys know, bro.
time you're down.
If I'm going at the end of the month, I'll let you guys know. If you guys got time, swing on down.
Sounds
There we
good.
go. I like the sound of that. All right, brother.
All right.
We're gonna let you go
All
for
right,
now.
guys.
Thank you as always for being on with us. We'll have you again soon. Yeah.
Of course, anytime, man. We'll talk soon. Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you for the #1, dude. I appreciate you guys all the way.
Thank
Finally,
you.
pleasure.
Shoot.
Finally, I made that top 25. All right, guys. I'll see you later.
See ya.
Have a good one, brother. There you go, guys. All
Yeah.
right. Well, that's gonna do it for us tonight, though.
Yep. We want to thank our sponsors, you guys, Artista Cigars, Apostate Cigars, Artisanal del Tobacco, Family by Loyalty, GTO Cigars, and Kiki Momo Cigars. And of course, James for being on from Sinistro. And we'll let you get back to your night, you guys. If you're watching the game or watching Raw, y'all have a good night.
Yeah, we'll see you guys Thursday. I will be back tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. for our Great American Morning. It is back. Mel will be on tomorrow, as long as she's still feeling good. She's been sick, so hopefully she'll be able to hop on. But other than that, we will talk to you guys soon. And yeah, thank you for joining us.
See you guys.